Hey folks, Chuck here with Hillbilly Half Acre Homestead out here fiddling around in the shop. I got thinking, this time of the year, honey flows are stopping. A lot of people try to make splits, make queens and what have you. They have a lot of robin problems because they try to feed the nukes. Sometimes you have to feed the nuke and a lot of times it sets off robin. Well, we're out here at the table saw anyway. Why don't we just throw together a few robber screens? I don't know if you guys have ever made a robber screen before, but I'm going to show you how I make them, and they're just simple as can be. First off, you start off, I'm just going to use plywood. This is 3/4 inch plywood, and I'm going to rip strips. What I'm going to need is I use about 5.5 inches, and these are about 9 1/4, so they'll be a little long, but we'll take care of that in the next step. So turn your volume down, fixing to fire up the saw. I've got 3 strips. I'll find one more. The way I do these, folks, I make a square. I do a half flap. So if you cut out your strips and you need them 3/4 inches thick, 3/4 by the thickness of the plywood or whatever you're using. If you're using this plywood's 23/32, or at least it's supposed to be. If you're using standard 1x lumber, then it'll be 3/4, or it should be. So we'll say 3/4 by 3/4 and 5.5 inches long. And these are all a little over 5.5. That one's about 6 5/8. Huh, wonder what that was cut off of. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and rip this up. Okay. Need one more piece and we can make 2. As I was saying, if you go to make these things, make as many as you can. Go through all your scrap wood, any of it that's good and or usable, and rip it down to 3/4 strips, and then you can turn around and you can cut those off. Okay, we're going to see how many of these pieces. Now I'm going to try to cut around it, but these pieces right here, they've got a little bulge in them right here, and I'm going to try to cut that out on each piece. So I've added a piece of 2x2 here as a backer to kind of lengthen my miter gauge a little bit, so I got something for this to go back against. You'll notice I've set it a little bit shy of where the fence is. That way I don't have to worry about it binding. The piece that I'm cutting is going to go all the way to the fence, and all I have to do is hold this, and being this is here, this piece of wood is blocked. It's not going to be able to, the saw is not going to be able to throw that back out at me and hurt me. So here's what I'm going to do. Cut this. Yep, I did, and I cut that bulge out. So that's a good deal. It's just one of those cases where these pieces of wood would probably be thrown away or burned this winter in the wood stove if I didn't find something like this to actually use them for. I like to use up this scrap wood. I hate to see it wasted. pieces here. Just kind of look them over. When you can, you want to cut just position it so that you can cut the worst pieces of the wood out. These little blocks, if you had a bad place on this piece of wood on either end, you would want to hopefully put it in there, or put it to where it would be part of the cutoff. That's not much to throw away on a sheet of plywood. But now let's see what we ended up with. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's one screen. There's 2 screens. 3 screens. 4 screens. And one more. Well, if I'm that close, you know I'm going to find one more piece. Some way, somehow. That's close enough. I think we can make do with it. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. Okay, I don't remember to tell you every time, but I'm going to fire a saw up. Turn your volume down. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and now 5. Alright? Wonderful. So now what we're going to do, matter gauge off, I'm just going to leave that fence on there in case I need it again. Anyway, what I'm going to do now is we're going to half lap these to where they'll fit together just like that. Except we need to mark out half of that. Okay. So to make that work, we're going to go down to, let me think here, 5/8. 5/8. Okay. I am going to need that miter gauge, but I'm going to have to move it over. This piece here is just on here as a spacer because the screws that I'm using are to, I'm going to make that just shy of the fence there. Okay. Old scrap 2x2 sure do come in handy. Okay, now what I'm going to have here, see, is, see, I'm going to have something to push off of as I run those by there. It's a little bit safer way of doing it. Okay. Now I need to back my blade down. I'm going to try. I'm shooting for a depth of 3/8. Okay. So what I'm going to do, this first piece is going to be to set it up. Okay. We know we're not deep enough, so we're going to be raising the blade up, but we need to check. Lord help me. Hopefully that's not too much. But I did move the fence over a little bit because I was a little bit shy of the 3/4 of an inch. Okay, right on the money with the fence. Now let's see where we need to be. This is, that'll do it. There. Now then, should be right at 3/8, right where I want to be. Yeah, just a tad over, but I'd rather be high than. Okay, so now what we're going to do is that we're going to make that same cut on the same side. Just like that. That's how we're starting off. Okay, get everything out of the way. I'm going to be putting these pieces over here. Now that I've got that, I'll cut all these and then I'll get back with you for the next step. Okay, we had enough pieces. As you'll recall, we had enough pieces to make 5 strings. Okay? So we're going to take 5 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These out of the way. Okay? Now what we're going to do is we're going to make an entrance. The way we're going to do this is 5 1/2. We'll say 3 inches. And then we'll move back. Okay? So here we go. We need to double check that all of your cuts are facing down or up. It doesn't really matter as long as they're all the same way. They can be down or up. Facing you or facing away from you, not so much. Okay, now then, push these all together here, nice and tight. We've already got our saw blade set for half the thickness of this material, okay? So we don't have to adjust it this way. That's why we're making these cuts in this order, okay? Bear with me here. Okay, I'm gonna fire up the saw. Okay, now, right here, I'm gonna hang on to them, got them up against the fence. Okay, now we're gonna take our fence. We're going to move it in. I'll move it in just a little over a 1/16 of an inch because my blade's not a full 1/8 of an inch wide. Okay? Got to make sure all these pieces are together in line and shoved all the way up against the fence. Okay? Now what I'm shooting for, the last ones of these that I made, I left an opening of 3/4 of an inch. And guess what? I still had some robbers to get in. They help. That's a 1/4. So I'm taking these to 3/8 of an inch, which is half of the thickness on the last ones I made. Whoops. Watch your fingers. Okay? Again, I'm not responsible for your safety. This is how I do it. I have not lost a finger yet. If you do this and you lose a finger, it's because you did something wrong. Don't blame me. There's safer ways of doing this. If you don't feel comfortable doing it this way, by all means, do it another way. Measure that opening. This should get it. This should get us to the point where we want to be. Okay? There we are. Okay? Let's see how we look. Beautiful, beautiful. See, our opening, half the thickness of this material, and we should be just about 3/8 of an inch. Now we can move this over to 3/8. Oh, great. I didn't anticipate that, but looks like I'm going to have to move it. The best way when you're setting this up is to put the fence where it's going to be. About right. Okay, and then what you want is you want a little wiggle room, for lack of a better term. You don't want it to be tied up against your fence, okay? And that's what I have. So, alright. Okay, now then, the idea here, now we're going to cut out the notches. Okay? So we're going to start off at 3/8 and I'm going to make a cut here. Not quite. We need to go up. So let's see what we have here. So we just basically, we keep going until we get this first one to the right place. And then after that, we just cut them off. Okay, now that's, let's see here. I'm going to do pretty good, but I want to raise it up again. We got the piece cut out, but I've got just a little ledge in there that I want to remove. There we go. That's what we want. Okay. Now that we've got that set up, we should be able to do each one of these. You see that little chip? We threw it out the first time. Okay. No problem. Alright, now look. If you're not sure, take it. See that? It's just very little. The thickness is the same. You don't really have a noticeable ridge. There. What we're going to do is we're going to glue and staple those right on the corner. See what I'm saying? And 4 of them. Okay? Remember, we made 5 of them with the notches. Keep those separate. If you're only going to use one of those, you're only going to use one of those per string. Okay, I'm going to cut out the rest of these and I'll get right back with you. Okay folks, we've got those pieces cut out. I'm using 5/8 quarter crown staples. Okay, now here's the one piece. Now, since we're making these all the same size, this is what it's going to look like roughly. Okay, and since we made them all the same size, it doesn't matter where we put the opening, okay, for this step. Alright, so what we're going to do, get our trusty glue bottle open, okay, both ends. Doesn't take a lot of glue, but I usually put too much. I love this dispenser, but it usually causes me to dispense too much. Let's put it that way. Okay, here we are. Now, as you can see, or maybe you can't see because my hand's in the way. Okay, we're making a nice tight right angle there. Kapow. And kapow. Alright, I forgot there was a better way to assemble these. I screwed it up. But anyway, we'll get it covered. Okay, you can see that's just a little. You can tell that is out of square just a little. But when you put this last piece in, you should be able to square it all up nice and square. Okay, there you are. Wipe all the excess glue off. And that's it for this step. Now if you want to, you can flip it over, pop another one in the back. It's not going to hurt a thing. I don't know if it helps or not, but if it makes you feel better about it, by all means, pop one in there. Now, when you get this done, remember we cut these at 5.5? Well, after allowing for our half laps, we still have 5.5. Okay, so what you're going to look for is we're going to need for each screen, we're going to need, and I use regular aluminum window screen. I would use 1/8" plywood, but the only place here local that I can find number 8 or 1/8" plywood, they want like $6.49 a running foot. I can't remember if it's a 36 wide or a 24-inch wide roll, and they want $6.49 a running foot, and I'm just not going to pay that. I mean, I've got other things that I would love to have some 1/8" hardware cloth for, but I'm not going to pay that. I don't want it that bad. I think I can have it shipped here and pay shipping on some cheaper than that. Thing is, I just don't want to buy a whole roll either. So what we're going to look for is we're going to cut out 5.5 by 5.5 because I like to put them pretty close. Now a lot of times what I'll do to make it simpler is I'll just take one corner of my piece of screen and I'll put it up there and I'll start stapling around it, and then I'll just take my scissors and cut it off. And it's so much easier than trying to measure it and cut it and what have you. Okay. So there's one done. Remember, for each piece you get 1 with an entrance, 3 without. Okay? Now we're gonna, remember when you glue, get a little bit of glue on both sides here. Okay, both surfaces there. Right here on the ledge, and then in there, that's too much, but it'll squeeze out and I'll have to clean it up. Alright, now then, we'll just take like this, and if you want to square it up as you go, let me get this stuff out of the way so you can see. You can take, I've got that, you know, you can use your miter gauge, set it up there nice and square, you know, set that down, and then just pop a staple in it. If you want to do that. It's not necessary at all, you know, and then you can go and do the same thing with this piece. Get that squeeze out, push it all up in there. Okay, there you go. Alright, same thing. I think what you're going to find out when you look at this is this piece is not any more square than the first one I put together. Okay, so let's see what's happening here. We can put that up here, put it up in the corner. Alright, all pushed together and flush. Pop a staple in there. Okay, same here. And there we are. Some people say Bob's your uncle. I don't have an uncle named Bob, so I didn't say that. But, or well, I guess I did. Anyway, if you want to do it, like I said, turn around and pop another staple. That glue is going to hold that wood. It's going to be stronger. Okay, here's a little messed up place here. See where it's split? And what I do when that happens, if that happens, is I squirt a little bit of glue in there, and then I take my trusty vice grip clamps. Okay, and I'm going to clamp that together. That's not working. Split something again there. I don't know if there's if one layer of that plywood has a knot there or what the deal is, but anyway, I'm gonna pop that on there, and that's not, you know, that bulged out a little bit. That glue is gonna, ouch, that glue is gonna hold it in place. It's not gonna hurt it. See, that piece broke out. It's not gonna hurt it. Okay, we'll just let that dry a little bit. All right, let's see, three without an entrance and 3 with. Actually, that one that I used bothered to slide up there to the fence. I don't like having that glue dry on my table saw fence. Probably couldn't tell it by looking at it because it's all rusty. My wood shop is actually you know, open, as you can, I'm sure you've been able to tell from other videos and what have you. I'm going to close it in one of these days, but it seems like whenever the body's willing, whenever the mind's always willing, but it just seems like getting the body to cooperate is a different story. But I didn't come here to complain, and y'all don't want to hear it anyway. So, and if Bob's your father's brother, there you are. That makes him your uncle. There. Alright, I got a couple left. You saw how it's done. If you have any questions, holler at me. I'll get back with you when we get ready to start the next step.